The salvage ship Helios drifted silently through the outer edges of the Crimson Nebula, its worn hull reflecting the deep red hues of the surrounding gas clouds. Commander Natasha Sullivan stood at the bridge viewport, her weathered hands wrapped around a cup of synthetic coffee. 20 years in deep space had taught her that the universe rarely offered second chances, but it had never stopped her from looking. The ship's AI chimed softly. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures approximately 300,000 kilometers off our starboard bow." Natasha set down her cup, dark eyes narrowing as she studied the readout. "Analysis, Winston. The signature matches no known configuration in my database. However, the emission pattern suggests a severely damaged propulsion system." She ran her fingers through her silver-streaked black hair, considering her options. Salvage operations this close to the nebula were risky, the magnetic interference played havoc with sensors and communications. But unusual usually meant valuable, and valuable meant she could keep the Helios flying for another few months. "Plot an intercept course," she ordered, settling into the pilot's chair. "But keep the defense systems hot. I've had enough surprises for one lifetime." As the Helios drew closer, the source of the energy signature became visible. It wasn't the derelict freighter or abandoned mining vessel Natasha had expected. Instead, she found herself staring at a ship unlike anything she'd encountered in 2 decades of deep space operations. Its hull was organic in appearance, with sweeping lines that seemed to flow like liquid metal, now marred by massive damage along its port side. "Life signs?" she asked, already reaching for her emergency kit. "One," Winston replied. "Weak but stable. Located in what appears to be the central chamber." Natasha checked her environment suit seals one last time. "Keep the engines warm. If anything larger than a shuttle shows up, you get out of here. Don't wait for me." "Understood, Commander. Though I feel compelled to remind you that your last physical indicated dash. That I'm too old for heroics," she finished with a grim smile. "Noted. Initiating docking sequence." The airlock cycled with a hiss, and Natasha stepped into the alien vessel. Her suit's lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that seemed to have been grown rather than constructed. The air was thin but breathable, with a strange, sweet scent that her filters couldn't quite screen out. She followed her scanner's readings toward the central chamber, each step careful and measured. The damage looked worse from the inside. Huge sections of the biological hull had been burned away by what she recognized as military-grade plasma weapons. This hadn't been an accident. The central chamber's door was sealed, but the ship's systems were so depleted that it took only minutes to override the lock. As the door spiraled open, Natasha's light fell on a scene that made her breath catch. A child lay curled in what appeared to be a stasis pod, but the power was failing. The being was humanoid but clearly alien. Its skin had a subtle iridescent quality, like mother of pearl, and delicate patterns traced their way across its face and visible arms. It couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 by human standards. "Winston," she sub-vocalized through her suit's comm, "what am I looking at?" "Based on available data, the child appears to be Etherian. A species thought to be extinct after the collapse of their civilization approximately 30 years ago." The child's eyes fluttered open as Natasha approached, revealing pupils that shifted color like oil on water. Fear flickered across its face, followed by something that might have been hope. "It's all right," Natasha said softly, knowing her suit would translate. "I'm not here to hurt you." The child spoke, its voice weak but musical. "The bad ones, they'll come back." "Who will?" Natasha asked, already working to stabilize the stasis pod's failing systems. "The ones who took everyone else. They said we were too dangerous to live." Natasha's jaw tightened. She'd seen enough war crimes in her military days to recognize one when it was staring her in the face. "What's your name, little one?" "Zephyr," the child whispered. "Are you going to take me away?" "Yes," Natasha replied, making a decision that would change both their lives forever. But first, we need to get you stable. Can you hold on a little longer? Zephyr nodded weakly, and Natasha began the delicate process of disconnecting the stasis pod from the ship's failing systems. She'd come looking for salvage and instead found something far more precious, and far more dangerous. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to wipe out the Etherians, and they probably wouldn't be happy to learn they'd missed one. As she worked, Natasha couldn't help but smile grimly. She might be too old for heroics, but she'd never been very good at walking away from a fight that needed fighting. The universe rarely offered second chances, but when it did, you had to be ready to take them. Natasha stood in the Helios's small medical bay, watching as Zephyr slept peacefully on the diagnostic bed. The ship's limited medical scanners were struggling to make sense of Etherian physiology, but at least the child's vital signs had stabilized. "Commander," Winston's voice was unusually hesitant. "I've completed my analysis of the data we recovered from the alien vessel." "Tell me it's good news," Natasha muttered, though she already knew better. The ship's logs confirm it was part of an Etherian refugee convoy. They were attempting to establish a hidden colony beyond hegemony space when they were attacked. The AI paused. The attackers' energy signatures matched known hegemony military configurations. Natasha's fingers drummed against the medical bay's console. The Galactic Hegemony, humanity's first attempt at an interstellar government, had always claimed the Etherians destroyed themselves in a civil war. Now she had proof that was a lie, but no idea why. Zephyr stirred, those color-shifting eyes opening slowly. "You're still here," the child said, sounding surprised. "Course I am. Someone's got to make sure you don't break my ship." Natasha pulled up a chair. "How are you feeling?" "Better." Zephyr sat up, looking around the medical bay with obvious curiosity. "Your ship, it's different. All straight lines and metal. Ours grow themselves." "Yeah, well, humans have to work with what we've got." Natasha hesitated. "Zephyr, I need to ask you some questions about what happened. About the people who attacked your convoy." The child's iridescent skin dimmed slightly. "They came in big ships. Black ones, with red marks. Mother said they were scared of us, but I don't understand why. We never hurt anyone." "Sometimes people fear what they don't understand," Natasha said softly. "Can you tell me why they might have been afraid?" Instead of answering, Zephyr reached out and touched the medical scanner. The device hummed, its display suddenly showing perfect readings of Etherian biology. "We can connect with things. Make them work better. Mother said it's why we survived when the ancient ones vanished." Natasha stared at the scanner, understanding dawning. The Etherians weren't just another spacefaring species, they were technological empaths, able to interface directly with machines. No wonder the hegemony saw them as a threat. A warning klaxon shattered the moment. "Commander," Winston announced, "a hegemony patrol vessel just dropped out of FTL. They're broadcasting an inspection request." "Deny it," Natasha snapped, already moving. "How'd they find us so fast?" "Unknown. But their trajectory suggests they were following the refugee ship's trail." Natasha turned to Zephyr, who had gone very still. "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" The child nodded solemnly. "You're not afraid of me?" "No, I'm not. Now come on, I've got a hiding place they won't think to check." They hurried through the Helios's corridors to the cargo hold. Natasha led Zephyr to a hidden compartment she'd installed years ago for smuggling valuable salvage past customs inspectors. "It's small, but it's shielded. They won't be able to detect you." As she helped Zephyr into the compartment, the ship shuddered. "They've locked on with a tractor beam," Winston reported. "Boarding seems imminent." "Remember," Natasha told Zephyr, "no matter what you hear, stay quiet and don't come out until I get you." She sealed the compartment just as heavy boots echoed through the hull. Moments later, she found herself face to face with Captain James Harrison of the Hegemony patrol ship Vigilant. He was younger than she'd expected, with the kind of perfect posture that screamed career military. "Commander Sullivan," he said, consulting his data pad. "Quite a career you've had. Distinguished service record, multiple commendations, and then a rather abrupt retirement to salvage work. Interesting choice." "Pays the bills," she replied neutrally. "Something I can help you with, Captain?" "We're tracking a fugitive vessel. Our sensors detected debris consistent with its configuration in this sector." His eyes swept the cargo hold. "Standard procedure requires a thorough inspection. Be my guest." Natasha gestured expansively. "Though I should warn you, the life support's been acting up in the lower holds. Might want to keep your helmets on." Harrison's smile didn't reach his eyes. "How considerate of you to warn us." For the next hour, Natasha watched as the hegemony troops tore through her ship. They were thorough, she had to give them that, but the hidden compartment remained untouched. Finally, Harrison returned to the cargo hold, looking frustrated. "Satisfied?" Natasha asked innocently. "For now." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "But let me be clear, Commander. If I discover you're hiding anything, or anyone, there won't be enough left of your ship to salvage." After the Hegemony patrol departed, Natasha waited an extra hour before retrieving Zephyr. The child emerged from the compartment shaking but unharmed. "They're not going to stop looking, are they?" Zephyr asked quietly. "No," Natasha admitted. "But neither am I going to stop protecting you. We just need to figure out why they're so determined to keep your people's survival a secret." Zephyr's patterns flickered with a soft blue light. "Mother said there were others. Hidden places where our people still live. But I don't know where. Then we'll find them together." Natasha squeezed the child's shoulder gently. "For now, let's focus on getting you stronger. Winston, plot a course for the outer rim. I know someone there who might be able to help us understand Etherian biology better." As the Helios's engines hummed to life, Natasha watched Zephyr examining the ship's systems with obvious fascination. She'd spent years running from her past, taking the safe jobs, avoiding complications. Now here she was, harboring a refugee from a genocide and making enemies of the most powerful government in known space. Somehow, it felt right. The Outer Rim colony of Haven lived up to its reputation as a sanctuary for those wanting to disappear. Its sprawling underground cities were a maze of tunnels and caverns, where questions were rarely asked and secrets were currency. Natasha guided Zephyr through the crowded lower markets, the child's distinctive features hidden beneath a hooded cloak. "Your friend is sure about this?" Natasha asked Winston through her neural link. "Dr. Marcus Rodriguez has been researching extinct species for decades," the AI replied. "If anyone can help us understand Etherian biology without alerting the hegemony, it's him." They found the doctor's clinic in a quiet section of the medical district. Rodriguez was a tall man with kind eyes and graying hair, his weathered face lighting up with genuine warmth when he saw them. "Natasha Sullivan," he said, embracing her. "Still charging headlong into trouble, I see. It's a gift." She glanced around the empty clinic. "We need to talk, Marcus. Somewhere private." His expression grew serious as he led them to a secure back room. When Zephyr lowered the hood, Rodriguez's eyes widened. "Impossible," he breathed. "The Etherians were not as extinct as everyone believes," Natasha finished. "And we need to know why." Over the next few hours, Rodriguez ran a series of gentle tests on Zephyr, his excitement growing with each discovery. The legends didn't do them justice, he explained, showing Natasha a holographic display of Zephyr's neural patterns. Their ability to interface with technology isn't just some parlor trick. They can actually perceive and manipulate energy fields at a quantum level. Which means what, exactly? It means they could theoretically control any system, bypass any security, enhance any technology beyond its designed capabilities. He lowered his voice. In the wrong hands, that knowledge could spark a war. Zephyr, who had been quietly observing, suddenly stiffened. Someone's coming. Someone, wrong. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the clinic. Rodriguez rushed to a monitor. Hegemony troops, full tactical unit. They're sealing off the sector. How? Natasha demanded. We were careful. Because I told them, a new voice said. They turned to find Diana Wells, Natasha's old friend and first officer, standing in the doorway with a pistol trained on them. I'm sorry, Nat. They have my family. Natasha's heart sank. Diana, whatever they're paying you, whatever they're threatening you with, we can fix it. You don't understand. Diana's hand trembled. The Etherians, they're not just refugees. They're weapons. Living weapons created by the precursors to fight their wars. The hegemony found proof in ancient ruins. If their abilities spread, if they start breeding with humans. That's a lie, Zephyr said quietly. We remember the precursors. They didn't create us. We chose to help them, and when they destroyed themselves, we chose to survive. Before Diana could respond, the lights flickered. Zephyr's patterns began to glow, and suddenly every piece of technology in the room came alive. Doors sealed themselves, communications went dead, and Diana's weapon powered down with a whine. We don't hurt people, Zephyr continued, voice echoing strangely. But we protect our own. Rodriguez moved quickly, retrieving Diana's weapon. There's a tunnel network under the clinic. We can access it through my storage room. Diana? Natasha asked, even as boots thundered above them. Her old friend slumped. Go. I'll tell them you overpowered me. But Nat, be careful. This goes higher than you know. All the way to the council itself. They fled into the tunnels just as the first explosions rocked the clinic. Rodriguez led them through a maze of maintenance shafts and abandoned corridors, finally emerging in a decrepit docking bay. Take my research ship, he said, inputting access codes. It's not much, but it's untraceable. Head for the Meridian Cluster, there's a station there, Sanctuary 6. Ask for Professor Jean. Tell her I sent you. You're not coming. He smiled sadly. Someone has to stay and make sure they believe you died in the clinic. Besides, my work here. He glanced at Zephyr. I think I finally understand what I've been searching for all these years. Go. Find the others. The truth needs to come out. As they lifted off, cloaked by Haven's perpetual storm systems, Natasha watched Zephyr staring at the colony below. I'm sorry, the child said softly. Your friend. Diana made her choice. Natasha's voice was tight. But she was right about one thing, this goes deeper than we thought. The hegemony isn't just trying to wipe out your people. They're trying to bury the truth about something bigger. The precursors, Zephyr nodded. Mother said their machines are still out there, sleeping. Waiting. The hegemony found some of them, didn't they? And they're afraid of what your people could do with that technology. Natasha plotted a course for the Meridian Cluster. Well, they're about to get a lot more afraid. Because now we know where to look. The ship slipped into FTL, leaving Haven's storms behind. Somewhere ahead lay answers, more survivors, and probably more danger than Natasha wanted to think about. But looking at Zephyr, seeing the quiet strength in those otherworldly eyes, she knew they had no choice. Some truths demanded to be heard, no matter the cost. Sanctuary 6 hung in space like a tarnished coin, its ancient hull scarred by centuries of cosmic radiation. The station had once been a precursor outpost, now repurposed by those seeking refuge from the hegemony's expanding influence. As Rodriguez's ship approached, Natasha noticed how the station's decrepit exterior masked sophisticated defense systems. "They're scanning us," Winston reported. "Multiple targeting locks." A voice crackled through their comm system. "Unidentified vessel, state your purpose." "We're here to see Professor Jean," Natasha replied. "Marcus Rodriguez sent us." A long pause followed. "Approach docking bay 7. Any deviation from the assigned flight path will be considered hostile." As they navigated toward the bay, Zephyr pressed against the viewport, patterns swirling with excitement. "There are others here. I can feel them." The docking bay was a cavernous space filled with ships of various designs. Armed guards met them at the airlock, led by a tall woman with cybernetic augmentations visible along her temples. "I'm Professor Jean," she said, studying them with metallic eyes. "Marcus warned me you were coming. Though he failed to mention your companion's nature." "Maybe we should discuss this somewhere more private," Natasha suggested. Jean nodded. "Follow me. And please inform your AI to remain isolated from our systems. We've had incidents." They were led through corridors that seemed to shift between ancient precursor architecture and modern additions. Jin's office was a cluttered space dominated by holographic displays showing archaeological data. As soon as the door sealed, her formal demeanor softened. "So," she said, "you found one of the children. We wondered if any had survived the purge." "We?" Natasha asked. Jean gestured, and a hidden door opened. 2 more Etherians emerged, adults, their patterns more complex than Zephyr's. The child gasped, rushing forward to embrace them. "I'm Professor Thea," one of the adults said, her voice carrying the same musical quality as Zephyr's. "This is my partner, Orion. We've been helping Jean study precursor technology, trying to understand why the hegemony fears us so much." "And what have you found?" Natasha asked. Jin's expression darkened. "Show her." They descended to a secure lab deep within the station. There, suspended in a containment field, floated what appeared to be a simple crystalline sphere. But as they approached, Natasha felt a strange resonance, as if the artifact was somehow alive. "The hegemony calls it the Nexus Key," Jean explained. "It's a precursor control node, capable of awakening their dormant technology across the galaxy. They found it 20 years ago, but they've never been able to activate it." "But we can," Orion said quietly. "That's why they hunted us. Not because we're weapons, but because we could prevent them from using the real weapons." Zephyr approached the sphere, patterns synchronizing with its pulsing light. "It's sad," the child said. "It remembers the wars. It doesn't want to be used again." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Winston's voice cut through Natasha's neural link. "Multiple hegemony warships just dropped out of FTL. They're led by the Vigilant." "Harrison," Natasha growled. "How?" "We have a traitor," Jean said grimly, checking her security feeds. "Someone inside the station has been transmitting our location. They're after the key," Thea realized. "If they capture it and force one of us to activate it, then we destroy it," Natasha decided. "Can it be done?" The Etherians exchanged looks. "Yes," Orion said. "But it would require all of us, working in harmony. And the feedback, it could kill us." Natasha felt her chest tighten. "There has to be another way." "Commander," Winston interrupted, "the hegemony ships are deploying boarding craft. Multiple breach points detected." Jean armed her weapons. "My security teams will buy you time, but you need to decide quickly." Zephyr touched Natasha's hand. "Sometimes the right choice hurts. You taught me that." Before Natasha could respond, the lab's doors exploded inward. Captain Harrison strode through the smoke, flanked by heavily armed troops. "I must admit, Commander Sullivan, you've led us on quite a chase." "Stand down, Harrison," Natasha warned. You don't understand what you're dealing with. No, you don't understand. He gestured, and more troops entered, surrounding them. The precursors left us their legacy for a reason. With their technology, humanity could rule the galaxy. No more alien threats, no more divided colonies. Perfect unity under hegemony control. Perfect slavery, you mean, Jean spat. Harrison shrugged. Call it what you will. Now, step away from the key. Natasha looked at Zephyr, seeing the determination in those color-shifting eyes. She thought of all the choices that had led to this moment, a chance rescue, a child's trust, a conspiracy that threatened everything she believed in. The universe rarely offered second chances. But when it did, you had to be ready to pay the price. Zephyr, she said softly. Whatever you're going to do it now. The child smiled, patterns blazing like starfire, and reached for the key. The moment Zephyr touched the Nexus key, reality seemed to bend. The child's patterns merged with the crystal's light, creating a cascade of energy that filled the lab. Thea and Orion moved in perfect synchronization, their own patterns joining the symphony of power. Stop them. Harrison ordered, but his troops couldn't advance. The energy field had created a barrier, crackling with possibilities. Natasha watched in awe as Zephyr's consciousness merged with the key. The child's voice echoed with ancient power. I see them all. Every weapon, every ship, every sleeping giant the precursors left behind. They're reaching out, trying to wake up. Then wake them. Harrison demanded. Show us their power. No, Zephyr said softly. I'm showing them peace. The key pulsed with blinding intensity. Through her neural link, Natasha heard Winston reporting that precursor artifacts across the sector were activating, but not as weapons. Instead, they were shutting down, their war protocols being rewritten at a fundamental level. Harrison's face contorted with rage. You're destroying them. Years of research, of preparation, all our plans. Not destroying, Thea corrected, her voice strained. Transforming. The precursors left more than weapons. They left hope, if someone could understand it properly. The energy field began to fluctuate. Blood trickled from Orion's nose as he struggled to maintain the connection. We can't hold it much longer. The key wasn't meant to be used this way. Zephyr, Natasha called out, her heart racing. Let go. It's enough. But the child's patterns had fully merged with the key's matrix. Almost done. Just need to make sure they can never wake up angry again. Harrison pulled his weapon. I won't let you ruin everything we've worked for. He fired, but Jean was faster. Her cybernetic reflexes allowed her to tackle him, sending the shot wide. The lab erupted into chaos. Hegemony troops opened fire, only to find their weapons powering down as Zephyr's influence spread through the station's systems. Jin's security teams burst in from hidden passages, engaging in hand-to-hand combat. Natasha, Winston's voice cut through the chaos. The key's energy signature is becoming unstable. If it overloads. She didn't need him to finish. Fighting her way through the melee, Natasha reached the barrier of energy surrounding Zephyr. Little one, please. You've done enough. Zephyr's eyes, now pure light, turned to her. Just one more thing. I need to show you something. The energy field expanded, enveloping Natasha. Suddenly, she could see what Zephyr saw, not just the precursor weapons going dormant, but something more. Hidden colonies of Etherians, scattered across the galaxy. Thousands of survivors, waiting for the right moment to emerge. They're alive, she whispered. So many of them. Yes, Zephyr smiled. And now they'll be safe. The hegemony can never use the precursor weapons against them. Against anyone. The key's crystal structure began to crack. Thea and Orion collapsed, their patterns dim with exhaustion. The barrier flickered. Zephyr, Natasha pleaded. Don't make me lose you too. The child's expression softened. You won't. I promise. With a final surge of energy, the key shattered. The blast knocked everyone off their feet, but Natasha had already lunged forward. She caught Zephyr as the child fell, patterns weak but stable. In the aftermath, as Jin's security teams rounded up Harrison and his surviving troops, Natasha held Zephyr close. The child's patterns slowly regained their strength, pulsing in time with steady breaths. The hegemony will come after us, Jin said, helping Thea and Orion to their feet. They won't forgive this easily. Let them come, Natasha replied. The truth's out now. And they're not the only ones with friends in hiding. Weeks later, the Helios cruised through unfamiliar space, following coordinates Zephyr had glimpsed in the key's final moments. The child stood at the viewport, fully recovered, patterns dancing with excitement as a beautiful green world came into view. Home, Zephyr said simply. Natasha smiled. One of them, anyway. She'd learned that family wasn't about biology or even species. It was about the choices you made, the trust you built, and the lengths you'd go to protect those who needed you. As they began their descent toward the hidden Etherian colony, Natasha thought about all the changes spreading through the galaxy. The hegemony's power was waning as their secrets came to light. The precursor weapons slept peacefully, transformed into tools of creation rather than destruction. And here, on this quiet world, survivors were building something new. Ready? She asked Zephyr. The child took her hand, patterns bright with joy. Ready. Together, they stepped into their new beginning. The universe rarely offered second chances, but when it did, sometimes they were even better than the first.